Chinese students during a graduation ceremony at Wuhan University in Wuhan, China. Photo by Wang He, Getty Images. Can Chinese students still expect to get visas to study in the United States? What will happen if the trade war between the U.S. and China escalates? These questions are on the minds of U.S. universities and Chinese students, but the answers should also worry American students and businesses. The Financial Times surprised observers when it reported that earlier this year the Trump administration considered banning all Chinese students from the United States. Stephen Miller, a White House aide who has been pivotal in developing the administration's hardline immigration policies, pushed the president and other officials to make it impossible for Chinese citizens to study in the U.S., according to the newspaper. The administration is not big on historical symbolism, but others have pointed out such a policy would seem like a new version of the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. To put in perspective how radical it would be to ban all Chinese students from studying in America, over 350,000 Chinese nationals studied at U.S. universities in the 2016-17 academic year, representing one-third of all international students in the U.S., according to the Institute of International Education. The impact on U.S. universities, students and companies of banning Chinese students would be significant. It would lead to fewer academic programs of many types being available for U.S. students. Even a small recent decline in Chinese student enrollment at the University of Illinois might affect the in-state scholarships it can offer, according to Kevin Pitts, the university's vice provost for undergraduate education. For companies, it will certainly mean moving more resources outside the United States to hire and place Chinese students, who would now be educated in other countries. This link between American competitiveness and immigration is a persistent theme for the tech industry, writes William R. Carr, author of The Gift of Global Talent. In contrast to the coal mines and seaports that anchored past industrial centers, talent in the knowledge economy can go anywhere, excepting, of course, where nations impose limits on people flows. Banning Chinese students would be even more devastating if the number of Indian students coming to the U.S. continues to decline, since India and China make up almost half of all international students in America. The number of international students from India enrolled in graduate-level programs in computer science and engineering declined by 21%, or 18,590 fewer graduate students, from 2016 to 2017, according to a National Foundation for American Policy analysis of government data. While short of a total ban, the Trump administration decided to enact some new restrictions on students from China. The State Department has announced that on June 11, 2018, it will begin to limit visa validity for Chinese PRC national students and others involved in certain high-technology fields, robotics, aviation and others, and increase the number of cases subject to interagency clearances, reported Barry Appleman. While violation of export control laws is grounds for the U.S. to deny a visa, there is no express authority in the Immigration and Nationality Act for denying a visa based on protecting intellectual property. The newly announced initiative focuses instead on limiting visa validity and increased screening, which are within the discretion of consular officers. University groups say student applications from China are down in 2018, and the administration's new limits create uncertainty among Chinese students, particularly whether they will be allowed to complete their studies. There's a lot of fear among Chinese students, said Heather Stewart, Counsel and Director of Immigration Policy at NAFSA, Association of International Educators. Before the visa policy change, there were concerns about visa denials and slow processing. Now, with the one-year visa for certain areas of study, there is further apprehension that the U.S. will lose these talented students to other countries. Eric Fish, author of China's Millennials, The Want Generation, told the South China Morning Post, it will give sought-after Chinese students one more in a growing list of incentives to pursue their studies in countries other than the United States. In the international competition for talent in these crucial industries, the administration has just handed an advantage to competitors. The Department of Homeland Security (DHS) recently added another measure to its regulatory agenda likely to scare off international students, a proposed rule to establish a maximum period of authorized stay for F1 students. The measure has not advanced yet to the formal rule stage, but a DHS description states, Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE) will propose to modify the period of authorized stay for certain categories of non-immigrants traveling to the United States from duration of status (DS) and to replace such with a maximum period of authorized stay, and options for extensions, for each applicable visa category. It appears likely that a questionable DHS overstay report will be used to justify the proposed rule. The Financial Times reported that Terry Branstad, U.S. ambassador to China, prevailed over Stephen Miller in the policy fight by convincing Donald Trump not to block Chinese students from coming to American universities. However, no one should believe that is the end of the story. Terry Branstad sits in an embassy 7,000 miles away from Washington, D.C., while Stephen Miller sees Donald Trump every day of the year. Miller once helped draft a bill for then-Sen. Jeff Sessions that would have banned virtually all international students from working in America for at least a decade after they graduate from a U.S. university, a scary proposition for U.S. businesses and medical research labs. But Miller is happy to use whatever argument might work. Miller argued his Chinese student plan would also hurt elite universities whose staff and students have been highly critical of Mr. Trump, reported the Financial Times. There is more bad news for Chinese student visas to consider. In its trade battle with China, the Trump administration has few remaining tools at its disposal and is running out of Chinese goods upon which to impose tariffs. What's that mean for Chinese student visas? It means if the trade war escalates, then Chinese students in U.S. universities could be the next casualties.